My sister banned me from her wedding ceremony, but still expected me to fund the entire thing. I found out she told everyone I was too ugly to be in photos. So, I showed up to the rehearsal dinner with receipts. Now the wedding is canceled, and my family won't stop blowing up my phone. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get this off my chest because my entire family is imploding and apparently I'm the villain. But let me start from the beginning so you can judge for yourself. I'm 28F and my sister Emma is 26F. We've never been super close, but I always thought we had a normal sibling relationship. You know, the type where you don't talk every day, but you're there for the big stuff. I'm a software engineer, and I've done pretty well for myself. Emma, on the other hand, has bounced between jobs and relationships her whole adult life. Our parents have always babied her because she's the youngest and, honestly, because she's conventionally attractive. I'm not trying to sound bitter, but it's just a fact that Emma has always been the pretty one, and I've been the smart one. About a year ago, Emma got engaged to her boyfriend, Derek. I'd met him maybe 3 times, and he seemed fine. Kind of boring, but whatever made Emma happy was cool with me. When she called to tell me about the engagement, I was genuinely excited for her. I told her congratulations and asked about her plans. That's when things started getting weird. Emma launched into this whole speech about how she was planning her dream wedding. She wanted it at this fancy vineyard about 2 hours from where we live. She talked about designer dresses and a live band and flowers imported from somewhere expensive. I was doing the math in my head and trying not to choke because I knew our parents couldn't afford any of this. My dad is a retired postal worker, and my mom works part-time at a library. They're comfortable, but they don't have wedding venue money. Then Emma said something that made my stomach drop. She said she'd already talked to mom and dad, and they agreed that since I was doing so well financially, it would be really nice if I could help contribute to the wedding. Not like chip in a little bit. She meant fund the whole thing. I sat there in silence for a minute trying to process this. Emma just kept talking about floral arrangements like she hadn't just asked me to drop what I assumed would be tens of thousands of dollars on her wedding. Finally, I asked her how much she was expecting me to contribute. She got all vague and said she was still finalizing numbers, but probably around $70,000. $70,000. I almost laughed because I thought she was joking. But she wasn't joking. She said that mom and dad had told her I had plenty of money and that family helps family. She said it would mean so much to her and that I'd be her maid of honor, of course. I told her I needed to think about it and ended the call. I immediately called my mom and asked her what the hell was going on. Mom got all defensive and said that Emma deserved a nice wedding and that I was in a position to help. She said Emma had always struggled and this was her time to shine. I asked why I was expected to pay for Emma's fantasy wedding just because I'd worked hard and saved money. Mom said I was being selfish and that this is what family does. Over the next few weeks, the pressure campaign intensified. Dad called and gave me a guilt trip about how I was breaking Emma's heart. Aunts and uncles I barely talked to suddenly started reaching out to tell me how important weddings are. Emma sent me Pinterest boards and venue links daily. It was relentless. Here's the thing. I probably could have afforded to help with the wedding. Not $70,000, but I could have contributed something meaningful. But the entitlement and manipulation made me so angry. Nobody asked if I wanted to help. They just decided I would and started making plans around my money. After about a month of this, I finally agreed to pay for the wedding. But I had conditions. I told Emma I'd cover costs up to $60,000, but I wanted complete transparency. I wanted to see all the invoices and receipts. I wanted to approve major purchases. And I wanted regular updates on spending. Basically, I wanted to be treated like what I was, which was the primary financial backer of this event. Emma agreed immediately. She was so excited she actually cried on the phone. She thanked me over and over and said I was the best sister ever. She said she couldn't wait to have me as her maid of honor and that this wedding was going to be perfect. For about 2 months, everything seemed fine. Emma sent me invoices, and I paid them. The venue deposit, the caterer, the photographer, the florist. It was adding up fast, but I'd committed, so I kept paying. Emma and I actually talked more during this time than we had in years. She'd call to update me on dress shopping or cake tasting. I started thinking maybe this would actually bring us closer together. Then one day I got a text from Emma that made no sense. She said she needed to talk to me about the wedding party. I called her and asked what was up. She got really quiet and then said that she'd been thinking about the photos and the overall aesthetic of the wedding. She said she and Derek had decided to have a small wedding party. Just Derek's brother as best man and her best friend Olivia as maid of honor. I was confused. I asked where that left me since she'd already asked me to be maid of honor. Emma got even quieter and then said something I'll never forget. She said that I'd still be invited to the wedding, of course, but she didn't think I'd be a good fit for the wedding party anymore. She said she was going for a specific look and that she needed people who would photograph well. I asked her to clarify what she meant. She started stammering about color schemes and height differences and dress sizes. Then I asked her point blank if she was uninviting me from the wedding party because of how I look. She got defensive and said it wasn't like that. She said she just wanted her photos to be perfect and that I'd understand if I really cared about her happiness. I was so shocked I couldn't even respond. My own sister was telling me I wasn't pretty enough to stand next to her at her wedding. The wedding I was paying for. I told her I needed to go and hung up. I sat in my apartment just staring at the wall trying to process what had happened. Then I got angry. Not just regular angry, but the kind of angry where you feel it in your whole body. I decided to do some digging. I called the venue and asked to confirm details of the booking. I told them I was helping pay and wanted to make sure everything was set. The coordinator was super helpful and sent me a full breakdown of everything Emma had ordered. When I looked at the invoice, I realized Emma had been lying to me. Remember how I said I wanted to approve all major purchases? Emma had been sending me edited invoices. The real venue cost was about 30% less than what she'd told me. Same with the caterer and the florist. I called every vendor I'd paid and asked for their actual invoices. Emma had been padding the numbers and pocketing the difference. I did the math and realized Emma had scammed me out of almost $15,000 so far. I was furious, but I decided not to confront her yet. I wanted to see how deep this went. I also started asking around about what Emma had been telling people about me. I called my cousin who I'm close with and asked if Emma had mentioned anything about the wedding party. My cousin got really uncomfortable and eventually admitted that Emma had been telling everyone I was too insecure to be in photos. She said Emma told people I had asked to not be in the wedding party because I didn't want to be compared to her and Olivia. Emma was not only stealing from me. She was trashing my reputation to cover up the fact that she didn't want me in her precious photos. I spent the next few weeks documenting everything. I got the real invoices from every vendor. I screenshot every text message and email between me and Emma. I recorded a phone call where I got Emma to admit she'd removed me from the wedding party because of my appearance. I know that sounds extreme, but I was building a case. The wedding was set for October, and by September, I had a folder full of evidence. I still hadn't confronted Emma. I kept paying the inflated invoices she sent me. I played the role of supportive sister who was totally fine with just being a guest at the wedding she was funding. Then, I got my invitation in the mail. It was beautiful and expensive. Probably cost $5 per invite knowing Emma. Inside was a card with my name on it for the ceremony and reception. But there was no +1. I called Emma and asked if I could bring my boyfriend. She said the wedding was intimate, and they were only allowing +1s for married couples or long-term partners in the wedding party. My boyfriend and I had been together for 3 years. I asked Emma why my relationship didn't count as long-term. She stumbled over her words and then said that they had to cut the guest list somewhere, and she hoped I'd understand. I told her it was fine, and that I'd see her at the wedding. That was when I decided exactly how I was going to handle this. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for the night before the wedding. It was being held at a private room in an upscale restaurant. Emma had invited the wedding party and immediate family plus a few close relatives. About 30 people total. I wasn't supposed to be at the rehearsal dinner. Emma had made it clear it was only for people in the wedding. But 2 days before I called the restaurant and added myself to the reservation. I told them I was the sister of the bride and that there had been a miscommunication. They didn't question it. I also prepared a little presentation. I made a folder for each person who would be at the dinner. Inside was a complete breakdown of every dollar I'd spent on the wedding. The real invoices versus what Emma had told me. Screenshots of our text conversations, including the one where she removed me from the wedding party. A transcript of the recorded call where she admitted I wasn't photogenic enough for her aesthetic. The night of the rehearsal dinner, I got dressed up. I wore a gorgeous red dress that I'd bought specifically for this occasion. I did my makeup and hair professionally. I wanted to look my absolute best. I arrived at the restaurant right as everyone was sitting down. Emma saw me walk in, and her face went white. She rushed over and asked what I was doing there. I smiled and said I wouldn't miss this for the world. I told her I had a toast prepared and that it would mean so much if she'd let me say a few words. Emma looked panicked, but she couldn't really say no without causing a scene in front of everyone. She nodded, and I made my way to the front of the room. I waited until everyone had their drinks and the room got quiet. Then I started talking. I said how happy I was to celebrate Emma's upcoming wedding. I said that being her sister had taught me so much about family and loyalty and what it means to support the people you love. I said I wanted to share some details about my contribution to the wedding since it had been such a journey. Then I started handing out the folders. I walked around the room giving one to my parents, one to Emma, one to Derek, one to the bridesmaids and groomsmen. I gave one to my aunts and uncles. Everyone opened them and started reading. The room got very quiet very fast. I continued talking. I explained how Emma had asked me to fund her entire wedding and how I'd agreed because I loved her. I explained how she'd then removed me from the wedding party and told me it was because I wouldn't photograph well. I explained how I discovered she'd been inflating invoices and stealing thousands of dollars from me. I explained how she'd lied to our family about why I wasn't in the wedding. Emma started crying. She kept saying I was ruining everything and that this wasn't fair. My mom stood up and told me to stop, but I kept going. I said that I'd spent almost $60,000 to give Emma her dream wedding, money I'd earned through years of hard work. And in return she'd treated me like an ATM and an embarrassment. Then I said the thing I'd been planning to say from the moment I decided to do this. I told Emma that effective immediately, I was canceling all remaining payments for the wedding. Any vendor who hadn't been fully paid yet would need to get their money from her. I said I'd be pursuing legal action to recover the money she'd stolen from me. The room exploded. Derek was yelling at Emma asking if what I said was true. My dad was trying to calm everyone down. Emma's future mother-in-law was demanding to know what was happening. Olivia, the maid of honor, was sitting there looking like she wanted to disappear. Emma was sobbing and screaming at me. She said I was jealous and cruel and that I'd always hated her. She said I was ruining her life because I couldn't stand to see her happy. She lunged at me and tried to grab the folder out of my hands. Derek had to pull her back. My mom came up to me with tears streaming down her face. She begged me to reconsider. She said Emma had made mistakes, but this was her wedding day, and I was destroying it. I told my mom that she'd enabled Emma her entire life, and that this is what happens when you raise someone to think they're entitled to everything they want. I left the restaurant while Emma was still screaming. I could hear her all the way out to the parking lot. The next morning I woke up to hundreds of texts and missed calls. The wedding was apparently in chaos. The florist had called Emma to say they wouldn't deliver without full payment. The venue said the same thing. Emma was calling everyone she knew trying to scrape together money. Derek's family was furious. My family was split between people who thought I'd done the right thing and people who thought I was a monster. The wedding didn't happen. Emma and Derek tried to pull together something last minute at our parents' house, but less than half the guests showed up. There was no photographer, no fancy flowers, no live band. Emma wore her expensive dress in my parents' backyard with a grocery store cake and a Spotify playlist. That was 3 weeks ago. The fallout has been nuclear. Emma isn't speaking to me. She's apparently been telling everyone that I sabotaged her wedding because I'm a bitter, jealous person who can't stand to see her happy. Half my extended family has taken her side. They say that what Emma did was wrong, but what I did was cruel and vindictive. They say I should have confronted her privately instead of humiliating her in front of everyone. My mom calls me every few days crying and begging me to apologize to Emma. She says I've traumatized my sister and that Emma is devastated. She says I could have handled this differently and that I chose the most hurtful path possible. My dad is weirdly quiet about the whole thing. He called me once and said he was disappointed in how everything went down. But he also said he understood why I was angry. He said Emma had been wrong to treat me the way she did. Then he said he wished I'd come to him before the rehearsal dinner and that maybe we could have worked something out as a family. The other half of my family has been surprisingly supportive. My cousin told me she's proud of me for standing up for myself. A few of my uncles have reached out to say that Emma needed a reality check and that I did the right thing. One of my aunts said she'd always known Emma was spoiled and that my parents created the situation by never holding her accountable. Derek called me last week. He said he didn't know what Emma had done until the rehearsal dinner. He said he never would have gone along with cutting me from the wedding party if he'd known I was paying for everything. He said he's been reevaluating his relationship with Emma and that he's not sure they're going to make it. He apologized for not standing up for me sooner. I filed a small claims case against Emma for the money she stole. She's been served but hasn't responded. My lawyer says we have a strong case, but that collecting the judgment might be difficult since Emma doesn't have any assets. My boyfriend has been amazing through all of this. He told me he's never been more attracted to me than when I stood up for myself at that rehearsal dinner. He said watching me refuse to be treated like garbage was the hottest thing he'd ever seen. We've actually gotten closer because of all this. But I'm still struggling with guilt. Part of me wonders if I went too far. Part of me thinks I should have just cut Emma off privately and walked away. Part of me feels sick about the fact that I humiliated my sister in front of her future in-laws and wedding party. But then I remember how she looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't pretty enough to be in her wedding photos. The wedding I was paying for. And the guilt fades pretty fast. I don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with Emma again. Honestly, I'm not sure I want one. The things she said and did showed me who she really is. And who she is isn't someone I want in my life. My parents are trying to play mediator. They want us to go to family therapy together. They keep saying we're sisters and we need to work through this. But I don't think therapy can fix the fundamental issue, which is that Emma views me as less than her. She always has. This wedding just made it impossible to ignore. I've been going to therapy on my own though. My therapist says I did nothing wrong. She says I set a boundary and enforced consequences when that boundary was violated. She says the fact that those consequences were public doesn't make them wrong. She says Emma chose to steal from me and exclude me and lie about me. I just chose to stop enabling it. Some of my friends think I'm a hero. Others think I'm petty. One friend said she understood why I was angry but that I could have just stopped paying without the dramatic reveal. She said the rehearsal dinner speech was overkill. Reddit, I honestly don't know anymore. Did I take it too far? Should I have handled this differently? Was I justified, or did I let my hurt feelings turn me into someone I'm not proud of? I keep replaying that moment when I handed out the folders. I remember the look on Emma's face. The way my mom's hands were shaking. The silence in the room. Part of me feels powerful remembering it. Part of me feels like a bully. I guess I'm looking for perspective. Tell me if I'm the asshole here. Tell me if I should apologize. Tell me if there's any way to salvage a relationship with Emma, or if that ship has sailed. Because right now I'm sitting in my apartment alone on a Friday night while my sister hates me and half my family thinks I'm a monster. And I'm not sure if standing up for myself was worth losing everyone. What do you think, Reddit? Did I go too far, or did Emma get exactly what she deserved? Update. Thank you for all the responses. Reading through these comments has helped me process everything. To answer some common questions. No, I don't regret what I did. Every time I start to doubt myself, I remember that Emma literally told me I was too ugly to be in her wedding. Yes, I'm moving forward with a lawsuit. Some of you suggested I might not get the money back, but it's the principle at this point. My boyfriend proposed last night. He said after watching how I handled Emma, he knew he wanted to marry someone with that kind of backbone. I said yes. And yes, Emma is absolutely not invited. To everyone saying I should have confronted Emma privately first, I tried that. When she removed me from the wedding party, I asked her directly what was happening. She lied to my face. She had plenty of chances to come clean and chose not to. To those asking if I feel bad about ruining the wedding, honestly, no. She ruined it herself when she decided to scam and insult the person funding it. I've blocked most of my family who sided with Emma. Life is too short to keep people around who think financial abuse and emotional manipulation are okay as long as it's your sister doing it. For everyone sharing their own toxic family stories, I see you, and I'm sorry you've dealt with similar situations. It's wild how many people have families who expect them to fund everything while treating them like trash. And to the few people saying I'm just jealous of Emma, maybe I was once upon a time. But now I just feel sorry for her. She tanked her own wedding and her marriage over $15,000 and her ego. That's sad more than anything. I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Turns out cutting toxic people out of your life is incredibly freeing even when those people are your own family. Thanks again, Reddit. You've given me the validation I didn't know I needed.